The following episode will contain images depicting injuries that some viewers may find disturbing. We'll also be discussing in detail events regarding injury, loss, and trauma that some may find difficult to listen to. If for any reason you don't think that you're able to continue with this episode, we invite you to join us on one of our previous or future comedic episodes. Thank you, and on to the episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Rum Runnas Podcast. I'm Jared.
I am Kyle.
And today we're doing something kind of different than what we normally do.
Talking about that one time Jared was on fire.
Yes, the topic that Kyle has brought up many times that I have legitimately just cut from some episodes. But recently we've been, and by we, I mean I, have been opening up to the thought of telling everybody what happened to me the time that Jared was on fire. So that's, I guess it's a full story time with Jared today.
Full story time with Jared about the time that a fireball hit him.
Yes.
And he'll tell it while drinking Fireball.
So we're going to...
Brought to you by Fireball.
I wish it was brought to you by Fireball. They have money that can sponsor us.
Fireball sponsor us.
So I guess...
Because Jared was in a Fireball for real once.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do much better than that for product placement.
But, he'll tell you this Fireball is way better than a real Fireball.
It's very true. You want to take the shot now?
Not really, but okay.
Let's take the shot now. Salud.
To not being on fire.
I agree with it. Cinnamony. Much better than being on fire. All right.
I thought you just put it upside down, and I was like, why would you do that? You yell at me all the time for shit.
Yeah, exactly, because I'd have to clean it. It would be bad. So, I guess the best place to start, as most people would start, is the beginning.
Yes. Tell us about the year you were born. What was on the radio?
So it was 1986. It was October. I was like for all things, I was late.
Was your mom wearing a Halloween costume?
No, because it was early enough before Halloween that she wasn't in the costume yet.
I mean, she was trying to get into it.
Maybe.
People have their Halloween parties early sometimes. What day of the week was it? If it was a weekend, I mean, that would have been the day.
The day that I was born was the day that the Mets won the World Series, though. I know that. The 86 World Series, the Mets won that because they won
on the day you were born?
As I was born, yeah.
And that's why you were named after Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter never played for the Mets. But no, it's my grandfather's favorite team, so he was always like, "You're good luck because the day that you were born, the Mets won the World Series."
It's a lot of pressure.
I know, and I don't think they've really won since. So
you need to really go to like a Mets game and see if you can make some magic happen.
I'm gonna play some bets beforehand if so. But yeah, okay, we're gonna skip past the I was born. So I was born. Some things happened. I was brown. I grew up in a place that there wasn't many brown people, so some things happened. I made a group of friends. Let's start there.
Such a speed through. I was brown. There were white people. White people didn't like me, so I found the other brown people.
That's not even what happened. I found cool white people and beige people. And that's kind of what happened. I found people that were off-white.
I'm off-white.
So that's
I'm pink.
Yeah, exactly. You are pink. Depending on how long you were in the sun, you could sometimes also be red, and that lasts for hours with you.
That lasts for depending on how long. Oh, yeah. That lasts for days.
Very true. Very true.
Sometimes I don't go to work, and then I throw up, and then I have to sit in air conditioning and lay on my floor.
That's called sun poisoning.
Yep, I've done that.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
I've also been burnt.
Yeah, there you go.
But by the sun.
But by the sun, yes, and that is a very hot thing. So I mean, you do.
And instead of skin grafts, I just had one giant blister that came off when someone hit me.
There we go.
It was not okay.
Yeah. So we'll start with the whole friends thing because that's a very important thing of this. I'm going to change.
The year was 1991.
No.
3.
Wait, actually,
4.
You might be right. Actually,
the Gulf War was just settling down
because I was in second grade. What year was it in second grade? How old are people in first grade?
6.
6, and I was younger than that, so I was 5 going on 6. So that means that I was 6 going on 7. So 60, 86, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
91.
92.
92.
92. You're right the second
Clinton
time.
was president.
Yes.
And the Gulf War was over.
All right.
We were in a time of peace in America.
And
unless you grew up in the neighborhood Jared grew up in.
Yeah.
And then
we'll talk about we'll talk about Jared growing up with white people later. So in second grade I met someone, and like I said, I'm going to change names for just the safety of people. We're just going to call him Max.
That's a terrible made-up name.
It's going to be easy for me to remember.
Let's make up a name that
literally
looks like him.
Now,
call him Balut.
No, literally,
Would that be racist if we called him that?
Yes, it would.
Are you sure, or is it only racist if I call him that?
I mean, you are white, so I mean,
but I don't like him.
I know you don't like him, and you'll find out why also very soon. No, I'm going to go with Max because it's going to be
Maximilian.
Easy. It's going to be easy for my brain to remember. Plus, also, goofy movie. We'll just go with that.
Maximilian.
Yeah, there we go, Maximilian. You can call him Maximilian. I'll call him Max. It'll be easy.
Maxwell.
All right, so I was in second grade. I met a kid named Max who was then in first grade. So we knew each other like as much as children can that aren't in the same grade.
So they've seen each other's penises
No.
during a peeing contest.
No, I mean, well, when you're in grade school, at some point, everybody's dropping their pants to their ankles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's the possibility. I don't remember that far.
Definitely saw each other's junk.
Yeah. So as we get older, we vaguely know each other. There's some things with he was really good at gymnastics, so he would take bets to see like if he could do backflips across the entire schoolyard. I lost some money that way.
Like he took gymnastic classes?
Like he was a competitive gymnast and one of the best in the state. So, yeah, it wasn't like gymnastics classes, it was like competitive gymnast.
It's a weird flex, bro.
I'm just saying these are just details. So
I could beat this guy up.
That was the extent of our talkings, where we would talk on the schoolyard. One time I bet
Showed
him
you how to do a backflip.
No, I bet him that he couldn't do back handsprings all the way across the schoolyard and then all the way back.
Who won?
He did. I just said I lost money. So
you actually put money?
Yeah, I actually put money on it. I was pretty sure that he could. I thought he would get dizzy and fall down at some point.
I don't know what a back handspring is. I'm just imagining cartwheels. Everything is cartwheel.
I'm not going to explain what a back handspring is, but okay.
Do it.
So no, I can't. This is the one where you do this. You see,
that doesn't help me.
So that where your hand goes over, but that's your body.
So you flip your whole body.
Yeah,
and
you
then try not to land on your face.
You put your hands back and then whip your feet. And then your feet land. And you're like a human slinky at that point.
Okay.
So that's what I bet him he couldn't do. He did it. So that was the extent of our speaking for grade school. And then
just this one time you're like, I bet you can't do it, gymnast boy.
That was like the most that we spoke at that time. But we did speak other times before that.
You're probably like, hey, gymnast boy.
Yeah.
I bet you 4 pennies.
No, it was...
You can't back handspring back there.
It was $5.
Back to here.
It was $5. I was a bit of a hustler. I had some money, so I had money. But it was $5.
First grade balling.
It wasn't first grade. This was like
third grade balling.
This was like in 6th grade at this point.
4th grade balling.
6th grade balling. So we're gonna fast forward now. High school. So high school. That's the height. So this is now ghetto, but at the same time hood. Or no, not hood. Emo. So hood and emo at the same time. That was Jared at that point.
What was the one movie with the guys and they were going to prom and they were all virgins and they wore funny suits?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Try not
Can't Hardly Wait. No, is it Can't Hardly Wait?
Not the one I'm talking about. That's super 90s. This is more of type of movie that I would watch.
That one I don't know. I feel like it's the one that had Jennifer Love Hewitt in it, right?
No,
not that one.
No.
Okay.
All right. It has black people, and that's it.
Oh, I don't know.
I only watched like movies, like gang related stuff when I was a kid and
Sure.
stuff,
Okay.
and horror movies.
Don't remember though. Don't remember what movie that
What
was.
is that? I think like that was just like a backstory. I didn't think that I don't remember. Anyway, it was about high school best friends and stuff, and trying to lose your virginity, and they wear like weird suits to like regular ass dances and shit, like
Okay.
brightly unnecessarily colored suits.
Okay, so kind of like Night of the Roxbury, but not. Okay. So yeah. So, but at that time I was trying to fit in a lot, but at the same time I was very sad. And to fit in back in the early 2000s was to be gangsta. So
That's not true.
Where I was, there's a lot of people that were rocking South Pole and FUBU and what was the one with the E?
Echo.
Is it Echo?
Yeah.
Nietzsche?
Echo?
I don't remember what it was. It had a rhino as its
Nietzsche was more like the thing for like the group of people that I was in high school. Nothing matters and you're going to die anyway.
There you go. But that was my outlook. That's the thing. I dressed in all the hood stuff, but my outlook was you're going to die and nothing matters. So that was me. Now, at that time, I got involved in theater, and in my junior year, we did a production of West Side Story. And in West Side Story, that is when I met back up with Max. And at that time, then we were like, he was like, "Hey, did you go to this school?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You look familiar." And he was like, "Oh yeah, maybe we went to the same school." So we, bonded over that, and quickly became friends again. Now at that point, we went from vaguely speaking to pretty much, even though he was a year behind me, becoming, pretty damn good friends. I would consider him, starting, I'd say like halfway through my junior year, probably one of my best friends, along with my friend Mark, but I will use his real name because I would like for him to be on the show one day. Mark, you're invited.
Mark is not his real name. His actual name is Jameson.
Sure. So along with Mark, I'd probably consider Max one of my best friends, starting like halfway through my junior year. So we would hang out all the time, back when, and then that was around the time when I was doing music. Turned out he was producing at the time. So he was trying to be a producer. I was trying to rap. So we, hooked up with that, and, then he started rapping, putting out music, and then that's how we really became, pretty much we would hang out every day. So
What about on Wednesdays?
Even on Wednesdays.
Even on Wednesdays?
So between theater and trying to start like a rap career, we would just hang out all the time. And you're talking about from when school started until like 3:00 in the morning sometimes. And this went on all through high school then, and then and then through college. All the way up until the day of the incident. And personality-wise, to give you a difference between like what Max was like and then what I was like, once again, hood emo is what I was going for in the early 2000s.
Hood emo.
And also, I still had my depression. I still had my anxiety. I had pretty bad social anxiety still.
Since I unnecessarily put too much effort into finding it. It was The Wood, was the movie I was thinking of.
Yo, I literally was going to say The Wood because that's the only one that I can think of. And it was the four best friends and they're always playing basketball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Omar
Yeah.
Epps.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I didn't want to say black people movie.
I didn't want to say The Wood and be completely wrong, but I was totally thinking it because that was the only movie that I could think of four black best friends.
And the one was really bad at losing his virginity.
Yeah. So, okay. And then there was
that Omar Epps character in that movie?
It might have been. I know that.
I think he was the more virginal one.
The one dude was like just a complete player. And I don't remember which that guy.
I knew it was a movie. It was like a coming of age story, and then there was like an adult part.
Yeah,
but I couldn't remember exactly which one it was
at that point. Then, almost done.
So you guys were those guys.
Yeah, we were those guys. Like we had our group of friends. But the thing is that I've always been extremely introverted. And this description of our personalities is actually gonna become very important later on in the story. So I was always very like I had my depression, I had my anxiety, and it caused me to be extremely introverted. I didn't really like going out. I didn't really like hanging out with large groups of people, and I wasn't the kind of person that was like, "Hey, let's hang out with a bunch of people that I don't necessarily know very well."
You screwed up and got into the wrong group.
I know.
Should have went with the goth kids. I had like one friend, and she hated me.
Okay.
We hated each other most of the time, but we almost only talked to each other.
Yeah. That was Mark's high school thing where he was with the girlfriend and they talked to each other for a while.
Just
and that's
they
what
were
I,
like, "That's how."
and that's what I bonded with. Well, ooh, dang. With I'm gonna have to
That's gonna
censor
get
that.
edited. That's when I bonded with.
That's when I bonded with Max more, was because Mark was hanging out with his girlfriend all the time.
Just beep it.
I'm gonna beep it.
It's funnier that way.
Yeah.
You should just say his name the whole time and
no.
just beep it.
No, that's
Just make all that extra work for the joke.
yeah, no, because it's me doing the work. So that's when I bought
Sad boy Jared in high school.
Yeah.
He had a white friend who had a girlfriend, and that person just was like, "I'm busy," like all high school kids, because they think that 3 months is gonna be a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, so
Why is your basement hot for once?
because I turned off the air.
How dare you? It's always freezing in here. I wore this so that it would be, and we would match, and it's fucking hot down here.
It's to go with the story. All right.
Okay. Everything needs to be hot, like fucking Hitler's basement.
Okay, so
That's hell.
I'm just gonna keep on explaining while you pulled the mic away. Jesus,
I moved my face away from the mic to take my shirt off.
I couldn't
But
even.
not the rest of my shirt.
There
or
we
the rest
go.
of my body.
Now I
or
can
the
hear you
rest of
again.
anything else.
Okay, so that's when we became even closer friends. But so I was the introvert. I'm good when I'm comfortable with people. Like once I kind of get to know someone, then it's like, all right, I'm cool. I can talk. I can do all this stuff. I can make jokes. I can do everything. Now Max, on the other hand, he would say he was an introvert, but was a complete just extrovert. He was a social butterfly. Talked to literally everyone. So anybody that I met from junior year of high school on to like adulthood, like in my 20s, 80% of them were through Max. So that was,
I don't know, Max.
I know, that's why I said 80%. It wasn't 100%. But so you're looking at from like 16 years old to like 24 years old. Most of the people that I knew because Max introduced me to them. And that's going to be, like I said, that's going to be very important for a later part of the story. So to get to the actual meat and potatoes of this story, it was around 3 years ago now. I think it's like 3.5 now.
It was a cold July morning.
No, it was not. But yeah, so it was a couple of years ago. And to give you a time frame, for those that played Pokemon Go when it first came out, it was when Pokemon Go first came out.
It was a cold July afternoon.
So I'm going to take the shot of Fireball for talking about this part, because this is the part where
About the time he was in a fireball.
where shit gets real. So
Get real.
all right. So
Real trap shit.
so it was summer-ish, because that's when Pokemon Go came out.
Yep. It was a cold
They wanted
July
to,
afternoon.
They wanted to capitalize on the nice weather for people to get outside and be social.
Find dead bodies.
So me, Max, and our entire group
Oh,
of
that's
friends.
right. That's a critical part of this story is Pokemon Go.
Yeah. that ends up being pretty critical.
Nothing being a 27-year-old Pokemon Go man.
Yep. Actually, I was 29 now that I think about it.
So old.
Yep. Yeah. So I was 29. That's when this happened. So Max called me up and it was like,
I heard
go-
there's a
I'm
rare
gonna s-
side duck down the road.
kind of, he called me up at like 10 o'clock, and he was like, "Yo, us and I'm just gonna say Jay, just because, like I said, I don't want to use real names, but
Jay
I'll just,
Jameson, except for
So-
that one real name you definitely didn't use.
It's speaking. Yes, we're gonna skip over that. Let's stop focusing on the mess up.
No, I'm talking about that other name that you purposely used.
Oh, but that's because he's a friend and I want him on the show. But okay, so we'll just say Jay. So it was he called me up and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna meet up." And once again, this was just his personality. It wasn't like, "Do you want to meet up with Jay later and go play Pokemon Go?" He's like, "There's over at the Rose Garden, there's a bunch of gyms, there's a bunch of rare Pokemon. We're gonna hit up there."
He just said,
He was like,
bitch,
"Hey,
we're gonna go.
We're
play Pokemon
going
Go.
to hang out with Jay at the Rose Garden," because he knew that I was going to be down to do it. Because once again, introvert, I wasn't going to make the plans, but I'll totally go along with the plans and I'll shine when I'm there.
You make plans all the time, then make me participate.
That's because it's for business.
No, you make other plans because I'm more of an introvert than you, and you have to make me go do stuff.
How often do I make you go do stuff?
You'll be like, Kyle, we're doing this tonight. I'm like, I don't want to.
How often is it not work?
Well, it has been not work, and I still try to get out of it.
Okay. Very rarely is it not work. But once again, these are the people that I came from. I had a group of friends where a lot of them were extroverts. So I had like half extroverts and then half introverts with extreme social anxiety. So every time we were at a party, it was very, very weird. You had people that were talking to and talking to everybody, hitting on girls, just like secret handshakes and dancing and just drinking.
So
and then
the Illuminati was there.
And then you had me and my introvert friends, which were like standing in a corner going, "I don't really want to be here right now. She's cute. Not going to talk to her, though, because that would involve talking to someone. We're just going to stand here and drink." So there was two very distinct camps in our group of friends. Max was one side. I was the other side. But we balanced each other out. And I've come to realize that my personality...
How do you balance each other out? He's like, I want to go do crazy stuff. You're like, yo, listen, what if we just don't do anything right now?
Because there was those times where he did need to chill, and I was able to just be like, "Hey, how about not?" And he would at times listen to me and not. Or like, if something bad was happening, he can turn to me and be like, "Hey, Jared, bad stuff's happening." And I'd be like, "Cool, angry Jared's going to come out now." And then I would solve things that way. So
He'd be like, come sit in my basement in the dark with me and we'll talk about it.
No, we'd always would sit under a street light till like all hours of the morning and freaking talk. But yeah, so
Sounds romantic. Did you kiss?
no. There was a whole big group of us that would do this. We would just have like conversations about life underneath the street light.
So your friend would be like, I'm so sad. You'd be like, call everyone. We're going to sit under the street light on Linden Street today.
Sometimes we would, and it was just on his street.
I don't know what his street is. I just picked a street in town.
We didn't relocate to a different... It was like right in front of his house. So, but that's where we would have all of our things. But I've come to realize that with my personality, and this is true for friends, and also like if I ever do get over all of my issues and start dating again, I need someone who is more extroverted and is willing to be like, "Hey,
you don't because that always goes bad. You need to stop choosing that. Don't choose that.
There's a difference.
Choose one that's going to be into the same things as you. Don't choose one that's like, hey, let's go squirrel hunting. You're like, that sounds fucking terrible. Choose one that's like, hey, I'm going to go watch something on my phone. Why don't you go play video games?
I mean,
which sounds better.
It does sound better. You're right. Okay. Still though, the issue is
Jared's like,
that
I really want one that goes squirrel hunting.
I have a young daughter, and my lack of energy and my lack of desire to do things is helped when I have somebody who's like, "Hey, here's an option. You should do this option. Let's do this option."
But see, what I do is I go, you know what? You should go do that. Leave.
True.
That's what you need. You need one that'll be like, I'm going to sit on my phone and watch videos. You play video games. Or I'm going to go to the park today.
You just sit here and play video games. Gotcha. Okay. So that's relationship wise. But so
do that with your friends too. Because I often say, don't go do stuff. True. Come play video games.
Very true. Okay. So let's get back to Pokemon Go. So
See?
me,
Play video games.
so it ends badly.
Okay, don't play video games that involve being outside.
Yeah, there we go.
That's where explosions happen.
Max told me that we're gonna hang out with Jay, later in the day around like 2. So, but he was like, just come over now. We'll hang out, and then we can go do that. So I was like, yeah, fine, it's cool. So I headed over to his house. He was like he lived 2 miles away from me, not even like a mile. So it wasn't that bad. I headed over there, and at that time, I'm gonna get into like a lot of detail here. And the reason why I'm going to get into a lot of detail is some of the things I'm going to say are going to sound asshole-ish on my part, I think.
Yes, the grass is blowing to the left.
No, I'm not going to get into Stephen King amount of detail.
The breeze felt like a warm kiss.
No. So I'm not going to get into that much detail. But some of the things that I'm going to say are just exactly as I remember it. And there's also going to be some things that I say that you're going to be like, why would you even mention that? That really doesn't add to the story, but it's what's in my head. So I want to get as accurate of telling of what happened because of what happens later in the story.
I wish I was more gooder at interviewing because I would just try and do this interview style. So it's the day it happened.
Okay. That's all I need from you. That's all the setup
You've
that you
woken
need.
up.
Yes.
You get the call.
Okay.
You head over.
Uh-huh.
What does it smell like?
No, I'm not going into that. So I show up at Max's house and we're talking, and then he goes, hey, I have some paperwork in my car. It has client information on it. He worked with kids.
He was a prostitute.
No. He worked with kids, and they were like patients of his. So he had sensitive information of theirs. He could not keep it. He had to destroy it. He didn't have a shredder, but he did have a fire pit. So he's
a doctor?
No, he was not a doctor. It's just more like a counselor.
Counselors don't have patients.
Whatever.
They have counsel teas.
I don't think that's the right word for it.
I think it is.
I don't think counsel teas. That sounds like a t-shirt company.
Campers.
Sure. So he had the kids that he was helping. Let's just say that.
Kids that he touched.
The kids that he was helping, he had papers with their information on it, and he needed to get rid of that. So he was like, hey, I'm going to clean out my car.
Though.
Okay, go for it.
If this is a business, and he works for a company that does this, that gives him mentorships or something, wouldn't they be the ones that destroyed that?
Well, I mean,
wouldn't they want those files? He was just like, I should burn these.
Well, no, because the whole thing is that there was like multiple, I guess there was like multiple things. Like there was like a copy that he had to give them. But the thing is that what he did was he had to go to people's houses and do like, I don't know, talkings at people's house. I'm just going to call it that. I don't know what he did.
He talked at children.
He talked at children. So he had to do that at their house. So his office was like his car, and he would just go back to the office like at the end of the week. So they had their copies of everything, and he needed to destroy his copies of it because it was the kids that were no longer his. Let's just say that.
I still feel like that's not the appropriate way. Like I feel like there's a way more professional way to dispose of sensitive information.
How this story ended, I agree wholeheartedly.
There's companies for that. I've seen them.
Yeah, Iron Mountain. Not a sponsor, but if you want to sponsor us,
Super Shred Bros.
I have a really great story for why you're better than fire.
Super Shred Bros.
Yeah. So, okay, so he's like, I need to destroy these. I'm gonna put them all together, and I'm gonna throw them in the fire pit. And I was like, cool. And he went, so can you help me out? You just like grab them, give them to me, and I'll throw them in there. And I went, nah. And I was like, what I'm gonna do is because you didn't tell me.
I know this so well because we've done it to each other as well. Where you're like, I could really use a hand, and I could just like, yeah, you could.
And that's
good luck.
That's kind of how it went because
my mic sounds weird again. Is it weird to you, or is it just weird to me?
I think it's just weird to you. I think it's just moving a little bit more.
No, I don't. It's like cracking. I don't know. Maybe it's just my headset. Maybe I unplugged something.
In my headset, you sound fine. You're good. So that's basically what happened. He was like, "Can you help me out?" And I went, "Nah." I'm just going to talk at you and you can listen to me and you can do all that because
Yep, we've been here many times. Both
because
sides.
that's your job. And also, I tried to justify it. I was like, that's patient information. I can't see any of that information. I'm pretty sure if I touch it, I'm breaking some sort of law. So I think the best bet would be for me to just stand here and watch you
You're
do
like,
it.
remember your Hippocratic oath.
Yeah, kind of.
HIPAA.
Yeah, HIPAA. Yeah, HIPAA laws. So that's kind of what I did, which is an asshole thing of me, but honestly, it's just how we are. It's how you and me are. I knew you at this time, so it was becoming the norm for me.
We did this a whole day at work the other day.
We did.
Where you're just like, you're gonna help? I'm like, this is the first time you asked me to.
Exactly. So that's what I did. So he's collecting all of this stuff, really, really working hard. He's going through his trunk. He's going through the back seat. He had to
That's
go under.
not an appropriate
he had to
way
go
to
under-
store important paperwork.
I agree. He had to go under the seat for a few. So he's doing all this stuff, and I'm just like,
And he knows
yeah.
where he stored everybody's like, I keep the D's under the seat.
No,
S's are in the trunk.
I think literally he was just like, let me search the whole car to make sure I don't miss one. And I was just like, man, that seems like a lot of work. It's like 90 something degrees out here. Have
one
fun
of those
with
papers
that.
got lost. It blew out of the car, and now that kid is missing, and it's his fault.
I mean, I'm not going to say that didn't happen, but
It
I
happened.
can't corroborate that it did.
It happened.
But yeah, so he's doing all of that, and I'm doing nothing. I'm talking
On a scale of 1 to not a lot, I was at 0 still.
Yeah. So I was doing nothing. I was just speaking at him. And he was like, yeah. I just need to find these. And I'm like, yeah, sure, cool. But I have thoughts that I need to get out right now. So I'm
So
telling
my
him,
favorite Pokemon is the Eevee, but what evolution are you going to use? I hear there's more coming, but right now they just have
They have
Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon.
you gotta go Jolteon. Jolteon was the coolest.
Dude, I like Vaporeon more.
I know you do, but Jolteon was dope.
Vaporeon's a mermaid.
He had freaking needles that shot out of him.
Laser lightning.
Lightning
He's
needles.
just Cat Pikachu.
And he's like foxish Pikachu. What is Eevee?
I don't know. Let's just admit that Eevee is the best Pokemon, and anybody that's wrong is wrong.
Anybody that's wrong is wrong.
Anybody
that-
is wrong.
Anybody that disagrees is wrong. Yeah, Eevee's the best. Because they can turn into anything.
There's like
Anything.
19 different evolutions. Name
And
one
they
other
just
Pokemon
keep-
that has that.
They just keep coming out with more because they're just like, we found a new rock. Now it's a ghost rock.
Every new 100 Pokemon, there's a new Eevee.
It's great. It's amazing. That's why it's the best. But so he's doing all of that, and then he goes over. He puts it in his shoebox, puts the lid on the shoebox, and walks over to his fire pit. Now, this fire pit, I want to describe this because it's very important as to how this happened. When I explain
Filled
this,
it with gasoline.
no. When I explain this, most people are imagining a fire pit like a bowl with like maybe like a grate thing over it that's on.
I
like,
was
some
imagining
legs.
one of those chimney things.
That's what it is. It
Just
is
because of the way that it had to have come out like a whole that way.
exactly. You know the story, but when most people hear that a fire pit exploded, they're thinking like maybe like something surrounded by cinder blocks.
Well, also at
it's
the
a hole in the ground.
not long before that, at the other house that I lived at, we had one like that.
Yeah. So it was
That's how I
exactly
thought
like
of.
it. Yeah. But most people think of like a bowl or like a hole in the ground this is not what his was.
Does he roast pigs? Like, why would he have a hole in the ground? You make Hawaiians, he gets like his banana leaves and he puts them down in the hole. He puts
No.
pig and buries it.
No. So,
Now I'm hungry.
yeah. But so what it was as Kyle stated, it was a chimney. It was basically a chimney that was open on the top and in the front. And that's where we put everything on. Now, this time that we did it, there's a freaking fly. You serious?
You're not
Go
Bruce
away,
Lee.
fly. Okay, so so he takes the thing, he puts the box inside of this chimney fire pit. We then put a metal cover on top of it because apparently that was something that went with it. That literally we've used this fire pit like 100 times. Like we would always find ourselves like doing a fire and having a fire pit every time we'd hang out. And then him and his family did it over and over again. And honestly, I had never even seen this metal piece.
So this helped to create the backdraft.
Yes. So we put a we put a piece of metal over this, which in his mind and his logic was, well, it'll get hotter. It'll circulate the heat. It'll make sure they're all burned up all good.
Question.
Okay.
Was he right?
It did up the heat. I'll give him that. So he wasn't wrong. And scientifically, it's sound to, enclose the top of it because heat rises and the heat would hit the metal and it would kind of, it was like an aluminum. So it's going to be like an oven kind of, and it's going to circulate. And you still had an opening in the front. And that's where the air was coming in. And of course, then the exhaust would go out through the top. Scientifically, it was plausible that this would be a good idea. We literally had just used the fire pit just before that for a music video that we shot. Everything was fine. He literally just burned a box full of, once again, paper. Because it was supposed to symbolize something else, but it was really just full of paper. I really
feel like we should have more opportunities to throw Dateline-esque updates in here.
Dun dun. No,
dun dun.
That's Law and Order.
We just used the fireplace the other day. They used the fire for a music shoot just that Wednesday.
It was
they
like
never
a week
thought
before.
that anything would go wrong.
Yeah. Well, so we do that. We light it, and actually, it's taking really long. And I even
light.
Like
did you
like
use
to
a
catch,
fluid?
Like to catch.
Was
and
fluid
I
used?
even said to him, I was like, "Huh, this is taking a really long time. You should just go get the lighter fluid that we used for the shoot and just pour that shit on and get this going so that we can leave already." I'm like, because this is taking forever. Because it was taking like an inordinate amount of time.
So it's just like clicking a lighter and nothing's happening.
No, it was light. It was like it lit. It was just
not getting
a
hot.
super long time.
He should have
to
left
burn.
the thing off until the fire started in order to let it breathe.
Probably, yeah. That probably would have been better. But so it was just taking a really long time. So we're standing there, and honestly, we weren't even thinking about the fact that we were standing near it at this point because it had been so long. We're just talking. I was telling him about ideas that I had for a project that you and me came up with that we're hopefully in the future going to still be working on.
So this time, the fire is lit, but it's not doing anything really. It's not going fast.
I suggested getting lighter fluid,
but he didn't.
And he did it. He was like, "No, he stated, and I think this is close to verbatim. Nah, it'll do it." I think that was around the words
like
he used.
He told the fire what to do, and he was like, "It's gonna listen, or else it's grounded."
Yeah, it was kind of like that, and then it started going, so it kind of worked. But so we're having this conversation. We're talking about like these ideas that I have for the project because we wanted to do kind of like a proof of concept video. We were talking about that at the time, and as I'm explaining this. Everything's fine. This is just a normal fire, just with a metal thing on top. Smoke's coming out of the top. Fire's in the bottom. I can see it through a hole. I'm about 6 feet away from the fire pit at this time. Max is about 4 feet away from me, diagonal, also away from the fire pit. So he's around 10-ish feet away. I'm 6 feet away from the flame. And next thing I know, I turn, like, because we're looking at the flames, and I'm just speaking about like these ideas that I have while staring at the flames, because flames are entrancing as they are. And I'm talking about it, and then I go, oh wait, then I had this great idea, and I turn, and I'm like, and then the character, and as soon as I like put my arms out, we hear a crack, a pop, and then the sound of oxygen lighting on fire, which is very distinct. It's a sucking sound followed by the normal sound of fire. That raging kind of fire sound is what you hear when a highly oxygenated fire happens, where it just sounds like the air itself is catching on fire. You can hear it.
I've never heard this, so I don't know.
You can hear the air basically being sucked in to feed the fire, in the fire, consuming that air and moving. And then that's when, so we heard that noise.
And there was no evidence that there was any kind of accelerant in
nothing. Nothing.
So could it be that the fire was in there and it was suffocating this whole time, trying to fire
Yeah.
because he put the lid on it, and that like a breeze came by, or just the fire finally ate up all the oxygen that was inside,
And it just was
and then
escaping and
sucked
reaching
in
for
the
it?
rest of it? No, well, I mean, it would be like a vacuum. Once there's no air, air is going to fill that.
Yeah,
space.
it's gonna. Yeah, I mean, the thing about fire, and after,
because that's how backdraft works.
Yeah.
It's a vacuum, and then
Yeah.
when the air is finally allowed in,
it follows the air out, yeah, and then follows the trail right back in. Honestly, I don't know. And
I think that I solved what happened, since nobody really knows still.
Well, the whole thing is because of the fact of what the doctors told me later. Like that's the only thing that's kind of a little iffy about it.
Do you think there's some smudging on some paperwork about whether or not there was something else in there?
Possibly, I don't know. That's the whole thing. Because so okay, I'll go into more about the thing that still to this day.
Let's
haunts my
continue
nightmares.
with you were standing there, arms out,
Yeah,
and then you got your warm hug.
exactly. So what ended up happening then is, so after the crack, the pop, the sound of the air sucking in, the sound of that flame noise, that's when the concussive force hit me. And it was a just deafening, just boom. And like it was a legitimate explosion. It exploded out. A fireball shot from the front of the fire pit, or the only entrance, or the only opening, and the metal plate that was on top actually shot up and landed. The only reason I know that is because it was askew. And when I finally like saw it again, it was like off, like almost hanging off of it.
That could have even been actually the cause too, because that could have, maybe it shifted from the heat. That would have, the crack noise could have like
Maybe.
warped the thing. It popped up, let more air be able, like that would create the vacuum.
Possibly. So once again, there's a lot of theories as to what could have caused it. But so the fireball shoots out of the front. First, I get hit by the force, so I'm launched forward slightly, and then that's when the only way to describe it is, as you said, it's like a warm hug. Fire is, I mean, it's hot. It's insanely hot, and it's a fire that heated is so hot that you can't really comprehend how hot what you're in is. Like,
So-
there's a level of like heat that human beings are used to feeling, and I had exceeded that by such a high degree that my body was like, I'm gonna stop at warm. It feels warm right now. Like, and that's what it was. It legitimately just felt warm, and it felt like just like a mass of warm air like came around me, completely engulfed me. And one thing that they don't tell you about being in like an explosion, and especially like a really, really hot explosion, is that fire, as it devours oxygen, devours all oxygen. It doesn't give a shit whose oxygen it is, whether it's the oxygen in the air around it, or if it's the oxygen that's in your lungs.
See, but they do, because from research on
Okay.
medieval torture, I
Okay.
knew that you couldn't breathe in fire,
Okay. Yeah.
because that's like one of the parts that murder you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm just talking about like the average person.
So are you having are you noticing that you're having a physical reaction while telling this story? Because your skin's changing a little.
Yeah.
Like it does sometimes.
I
I
can-
noticed it on your face, and then I saw your
Yeah.
arms were getting speckled.
I legitimately can feel like the heat
You're
in the
remembering
places
it?
where I was burned.
Because I was like, he doesn't really do that much anymore. But
Yeah.
then I was like noticing it.
Yeah, it's getting bad. And I think it's because of the psychological aspect that went along with it, which I'm going to cover a little bit more in a second. But so I get engulfed by this warm, just it feels like air, and the air literally gets sucked out of my lungs, and I get launched forward. I see Max get launched back, and I see it kind of hit near his arm, and at that point, that's when I go, "Oh shit, I'm in fire." And not even that I was on fire. I'm just like, I'm in fire. Like right now, in that split second, I knew that everything around me, if I moved in any direction, was still fire. And I saw him get hit by it. And then I heard the and it was oxygen. Like it's weird because like my ears were ringing, but you can still like I can still distinctly remember these noises. And it was the sound of the flame literally getting pulled back. And then it was just an intense cold. Like, and it's from what I was told, it was like my nerves were in shock at that point. It had been my skin had been exposed to such an insane degree of heat, and then for that to so quickly be taken away. Like
So
all of this
about how
happened within
long-
less than a quarter of a second.
Okay.
But in my head, this was it's kind of like when you're in a
Did
car
that
crash.
slow motion?
Yeah.
thing?
When you're in a car crash, as if you flip your car, you're only flipping for around a half a second.
So if you're like that kid and you're like,
Yes, the kid who was singing and crashed his car. To him, that probably felt like
weeks.
yeah, it slows down to such an insane degree that you're aware of everything around you. Like I was aware that I was inside a fire. I was aware that that fire continued from to my left as far as I can extend my arm to my right by at least 8 feet. And then I knew that it had reached max 4.5, 5 feet away from me and had enough force to hit him and knock him over almost. And then suck back. And then it was just that intense cold feeling. And I think that's the reason why my first reaction wasn't stop, drop, and roll. Because I was like, I don't feel on fire.
Everything around you was on fire.
Yeah. But at this point then, right when I heard it suck back, I can see everything was clear. It was just, I saw smoke everywhere and my ears were ringing, but I knew that there wasn't fire. I looked around and I remember looking to my right and seeing that the grass was just dead in some spots and then on fire still in like other spots. But then to the left of me, there was nothing. But I still wasn't like, I wasn't thinking I'm on fire. Because once again, my arms and my face and everything really just felt cold. So I focused on the thing that was really wrong, which was I have no air in my lungs.
You were like, man, it's been a minute since I had air.
Yeah. So I try to breathe and I go, and all I feel is hot air. And like I could feel my lungs like expand.
That's how you die.
Yeah, I
Don't
can
breathe
feel. Yeah,
fire.
well, yeah, I could. I like took a breath in to try to be like, okay, I need air. Like I need to be able to breathe, and I breathed in, and it was like standing over a fire and trying to inhale the smoke. That's what it felt like.
Okay.
So it didn't feel like I was getting air. So I started to panic, and I was like, I need to get away.
It's like what kids used to do in high school at lighters, where you light it and you breathe in
yeah.
the flame.
It was very similar to that. But it's like if you did that after you were like, I'm going to let out all my air and then do that.
Like that's the only air you're getting.
That's the only air you're getting. Like that's like, it was this moment of panic where I'm like, I can't breathe. And all I'm breathing in, it just felt like smoke. So I start running because I'm like, maybe if I get far enough away, I will be able to breathe. I get to the other side of his house, really.
Was the heat just because you were superheated? So that's why the air around you was hot?
Yeah, I think that's
like
what
your
it was.
mouth was just hot because you were just burning.
Yeah, that's the only logical explanation for it as to why the air that I was breathing in was hot.
More like when you drink like really hot drink and then breathe and then that's warm when
it's still warm.
It warms the air cup.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to breathe this entire time as I'm going, and like I'm running, but I'm so disoriented from like my ears freaking ringing and the smoke and just everything that has happened that I'm running and I'm like stumbling as I'm trying to run just as far away from the explosion as I possibly could.
Well, I mean, you don't know if there's going to be more.
Yeah, exactly. So but at that point, honestly, I didn't even think about that. I was just like, I need air. I'm like, I'm going to suffocate and die right here on his lawn. Cause I can't, my lungs aren't working. I'm like, I can't bring air in. And then I can hear in the distance through the ringing, I can hear Max just being like, what the fuck? And he's just like screaming. And then I hear some guy in the distance going, is everyone all right? And then that's when I literally just put my hand on my knees and I just took a huge breath. And finally, air filled my lung. And I was just like,
So
okay.
what it did was it knocked the air out of you.
Yeah.
Because that can take a minute.
Yeah. So it knocked the air out of me and then ate it. So, which is, it's why I have way more of a respect for fire also, because after you've been seriously burned, you understand that fire is basically, it's like, it's an element, it's a thing, it's a chemical reaction.
But it's going to do whatever it can to kill you.
It's an animal. It's an instinct only, mindless form, like bodiless animal that all it cares about is I need to eat and I need to get bigger. That's all it wants to do. It just wants to eat. It just wants to get bigger. It doesn't give a shit what's in its way. It doesn't give a shit that you just want to move. It doesn't give a shit that you just want to breathe. It wants your air. It wants all the air, and it wants all the fuel it can possibly get to get as big as possible. That's all fire gives a shit about, which is why I'm terrified of it to this day. Because I felt firsthand what it's like when fire just goes, okay.
Camping is going to be so weird.
Yeah, it will be. We
finally go.
Yeah, it definitely will be. But
I'll be like, you're going to come sit by the fire? And you're going to be like, no.
Nope.
Like, it's 20 degrees over there. Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. But yeah, so I hear the guy screaming, like, is everybody all right? I finally take a breath, and then I start running back towards Max. And he, at this point, is, because he also never wore a shirt, so he's shirtless, and I'm like, dang, he must have got really badly burned, even though he didn't. He got burned, but he didn't get badly burned. But so I'm running back towards him to see if he's okay, and then as I'm running, as you know, a somewhat shallow human being as I am, I slow down a little bit because I'm like, okay, I'm not dying. I can breathe. I'm not on fire. I felt that because I'm cold, so I must not be on fire, which I never checked. But
you're like, I don't feel fire.
I don't
anymore,
feel fire. So
why would I look for it?
Exactly. So my immediate reaction then is, do I still have eyebrows? So I slow down a little bit before going to check to see if he's okay, and I check to see if I have eyebrows. And then I go, I have, like, gel in my hair.
You were like, do I have
hair? And then I checked my hair, and my hair was fine. So I was like, okay, now I can see if he's okay. Once again,
to be fair, he was yelling this whole time, and you couldn't breathe, so
yeah,
that's a sign.
yeah. Looking back now, I guess hindsight is 2020. He was fine. But
you were gay for him.
So I start running back. He runs towards me and meets me. And he's just like, what the fuck happened? I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I'm like, what was that? And he's like, it was a fucking explosion. He's like, I'm like, no shit.
We've exploded.
So his mom comes running out of the house and she's like, what? She's like, oh my God, what happened? Are you guys okay? And she's like, get inside right now. And he's like, do we have burn cream? And I'm like, I'm looking at myself at that point like, oh fuck. He's not burned. I can't see myself. He can see me. I must be burned. Like, I must be horribly disfigured right now. If the first thing he was like is, do we have burn cream?
I feel like that would be the shittiest friend ever. If he's looking at you and he's like, oh my God, you're all Freddy Kruegered. Let me get you some aloe vera.
Yeah. So, like, that was my thought. And I come by, and then he's like, and then he turns, and his mom runs inside to go see if she has any, like, ointments or anything like that. And he turns to me and he just goes, do I have eyebrows? And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not the only one that was thinking that. And I was like, you're good. I'm like, do I? I'm like, I checked, but I kind of feel like I might be wrong. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, hair? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you got yours too. And I'm like, are we fucked up at all? And he's like, I don't know. And we were both just like completely shell shocked. Like, we had no fucking idea what was going on. So his mom is like, we don't have, I'm like, we have like different lotions that might help. She's like, but you guys need
Never put lotion on a burn.
Yeah. So she was like, you guys need to get the whatever's on your skin off. You need to cool down. So she was like, I need you guys to hop in the shower.
You did. This is where the story gets romantic.
No, it's not romantic because we did both hop in the shower at the same time, but we did both keep our boxers on.
That's lame.
Why did you want it to go further than that? I know, like in your head, you're like, this is where they look at each other and the glistening and the what. No, it was just we were just both on fire. We literally stripped down to our underwear and jumped into cold water. And then, so then at that point,
but you're freezing at this point.
Yes, but my body temperature started to self-regulate now.
Okay,
so it's like
by self-regulate, you mean get hot?
Yeah, I started to get back up to 98.6 apparently, or down to 98.6. That's what it was. My nerves started to regain feeling, I think is what it was. So I was coming out of shock. Then, so we hop into the shower. He hops out. I'm in for a while. I hop out. He's in for a while. We keep doing that back and forth because at that point she was like, your body temperature is probably really screwed up. Don't just stay in cold water. She's like, that's too extreme of a thing.
Y'all should have got naked, put some bubbles in, filled up the tub.
No.
Just got some wine, calm the nerves a little further.
I mean, alcohol probably would have been a bad idea, but
I don't know.
It thins the blood.
This would have been a new movie.
Yeah, this would have been a very different story also if all that stuff happened. But so we're doing that. We're doing the switch off, and then that's when I realized that my face was starting to itch. Like my face was really starting to itch. My arms were starting to itch. Like everything was starting to just feel uncomfortable. Like it felt like
your skin was peeling.
Yeah, I mean it felt like that, but it wasn't. It was slightly red right on my elbow here. I was missing a chunk of skin. Right on my face, I was missing a big chunk of skin right on my right cheek. Like right between like my ear and my nose. But that was it. And then that's when I was like, okay, I need to I held my arms under first, and then I was like, I'm gonna hold my face under the water, try to get because at that point I thought that there was some sort of chemical probably on my face.
I think that itch is common because I've minorly burned myself.
Yeah.
And I understand the desire to then pick at it.
Yeah,
and
it just itches.
No.
Yeah, and this was to a degree
but that's your whole body.
Yeah, it was to a degree that I had never felt. Like I've had poison ivy and shit like that, and it was nothing compared to this because it felt like it was coming from the inside out. Like it felt like the itch was in my muscles and then working its way up to the skin. That's what it felt like. So I put my face into the water, and that's when I go and I feel like my lips start feeling just weird. Like my lips felt like they were shriveling. So I licked my lips real quick and I spit chunks of my lips off. Just pieces of skin.
I don't understand his mom's reaction. I would have been like, it'd be a real good idea. Hospital.
Yeah. So
I do that crap for nothing.
Yeah.
My kid's like, I fell down the stairs and I'm like, we're gonna go to the hospital.
He'd be like, it was 2 stairs. We're like, we're still going to the hospital.
It was literally 1 stair, and actually I fell going up it. Probably gonna need to go get brain scanned. Say you fell going upstairs. So there's already something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was a little weird that she was so tentative and reluctant to be like, you should probably go to the hospital.
There was a massive explosion. You guys were in it? I don't have insurance.
Yeah. So So at this point, I'm spitting chunks of my lips off. I'm just the more water keeps hitting it, the more
you're molting, and she's just like, keep doing it.
Yeah, the more pieces of my lips are coming off. I get out. I'm just pulling pieces of lip off at this point, and I look at my lips, and I'm like, how bad is it? Or tell her to look at my lips. I'm like, how bad is it? She's like, it doesn't look good. And I turn and I look in the mirror, and my lips were gray, just completely gray, with a film of white over it, except for where the chunks were coming off and I was bleeding.
Yeah.
That's what my face looked like.
Dead skin.
And at this point, I stopped, I dried off. She was like, pat dry everything. She's like, don't rub. And I'm like, my skin feels weird. I
My
can't
face
do that.
coming off just because I
Yeah.
licked my lips. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do that anywhere else.
So I start drying everything off. Like I start, do everything. I put my clothes back on, and then I'm like, I need to call my mom. I'm like, it was just like a thought process of, I'm pretty sure I should have not survived that. I should probably call my mom because my daughter was at home.
You should have called me first.
Actually, no, my daughter wasn't at home. But I was like, my daughter could be home. My daughter could come home at any time. Who knows? So I'm just like, I need to let my mom know. So I call and I was like, hey, mom, don't freak out. Which my mom has gotten those calls from me before, and it always ends up with like, I got alcohol poisoning. I was in some sort of accident. It's like, I fell off, like a flight of steps. It's never a good thing when you tell your kids, for the very few people under the age of 18 that might hear this, don't ever start a conversation with your parents of don't freak out. They're going to freak out. Like imagine one of your kids is like, hey, dad, don't freak out. But
I'm just trying to imagine a time when I would have done that, but I probably would have just not called my mom.
Yeah. But yeah, you're in a different situation.
I would have just been like, I'm going to go be happy I'm not dead.
Yeah. So I call my mom, I'm like, hey, don't freak out. She's like, what happened? And I'm like, so I was hanging out with Max, and she was like, what happened? And I was like, she was thinking that I got into an accident and that I hurt somebody. And she was like, are you okay? What happened? And
No,
I was
I'm
like,
not okay.
And I said, I don't know. There was an explosion.
She's like, what did you blow up?
Yeah. So in her mind, she's like, there was an explosion. And for some reason, he can't figure out if he's okay or not. Because I was so out of it. I was having a hard time formulating sentences. I was like, I was stuttering, which is something that I've never done really before. So I'm having
I've
a
heard
hard.
you stutter.
I mean,
telling stories.
You've heard me stutter like
just like you just did. No, just like you just did, where you were like, because you just are bad at telling stories sometimes.
Well, this was every word that came out of my mouth. I was stuttering and I was tripping over.
Freak out.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who stuttered knows what it sounds like to have someone that
I don't know
that stutter.
That would be unique if you did it on every word. Though.
I mean, it was okay. Slight hyperbole. It was a lot of the words, and it was the entire conversation. It wasn't like I was losing a thought and trying to catch whatever the next thing I wanted to say was.
It was the shock causing you to like, no.
Yeah. It was my brain was like skipping. It was like, you don't know what's going on. And so I couldn't really formulate what was happening. And she was like, are you going to the hospital? And I said, I don't know. And she was like, I think you should go to the, and I was like, what do you, and I said, what do you think? And she was like, you should go to a hospital.
You were in an explosion.
Yeah. So she and then I go, oh, damn it. I'll beep that again also. So
Maximilian.
So I'm like, Max, are you going to the hospital? And he goes, fuck that. He had no intention of going to the hospital. So
it makes me feel like he had something in there and was aware that whatever it was the
might
reason.
have caused it. I thought that for a while. I don't know. But so
because the only people that get injured and then go, I'm going to take care of this.
Yeah.
Are the ones that got injured doing something that if they go to the hospital,
they have to say it's their fault.
And questions are asked, they're going to be like, I'm not going to answer that one.
Yeah. So my mom finally goes, are you going to the hospital? And I say, Max doesn't want to go to the hospital. And then he's like, I don't know. And I was like, Max doesn't know now. I don't know. And she's like, I think you should go to the hospital. Are you good to drive? And I go, I don't know. And she goes, I'm going to come pick you up. So my brother's fiance was there at the time. He was playing Pokemon Go. He wasn't there. She's trying to call him then saying, I'm leaving with your mom. Your brother was in an accident. I'm taking him to the hospital. My brother wasn't picking up because he was playing Pokemon. So, it is what it is.
He's like, leave me alone. I'm going to catch this one.
Yeah. So they rush over. They pick me up. And Max is like, all right, I'll go to the hospital, but fuck that shit. I'm driving myself. wouldn't let his mom come, or I don't know if his mom, I don't know what happened between that. But he was like, I'm driving myself. So he hopped in his car and fucking sped. Like fucking like 90 miles an hour.
Like knew he definitely needed to go to the hospital.
Yeah, like he knew he was like
trying
that was
to
bad.
be I'm a man.
Yeah. So he sped to the hospital. I hop in my mom's car and she takes me to the hospital. We're sitting there and at that point, you know, now it's like 35 minutes after the explosion has happened and my nerves are starting to fully come back alive.
So that's not a good time.
I'm standing in the waiting room of St. Luke's and in the ER and my skin is starting to now feel like it's on fire. Like the entire time, I did not think I was on fire. I did not think I got burned. I didn't think anything was that bad aside from the skin was falling off of my face.
Completely normal.
Yeah. So, but I didn't feel like I was just in a fire until I was standing in the ER. Then my skin started waking up and it was going, oh no, I'm not good. I'm really not good. So I start pacing back and forth and Max is doing the exact same thing, but he's getting even more heated about it because that's just his personality.
He's getting mad that he blew himself up.
He's getting mad that
we're
waiting.
There I have blown me up.
Yeah. So he's getting mad that we're waiting and that he was just involved in an explosion. I don't want to put, like speak for him, but that's what was happening.
All right, so I'll speak for him then. I'm going to be him in the story.
Okay.
I can't believe I done blowed myself up. What an asshole. Asshole who blows himself up. Jared looks upset. He's a bitch. I was blowed up by myself.
Okay.
Fuck myself.
So my brother's fiance goes and there's some guy apparently just being like, that's not my address. I don't know why
she's
this
like,
is happening.
those two were blowed up?
Yeah, she literally just goes, excuse me. And the woman goes, can you give me a second? I'm helping this gentleman. And she goes, oh, really? Well, these two were just involved in an explosion. You want to help them out? And the guy just goes, I was just changing my address. And he was like, you can go first.
It's like, help the exploded people.
Yeah.
We can do this on the internet.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, I didn't know. And she's like, of course you didn't know. Because
We
we
were
were fucking
waiting.
paying attention. So we go up.
You're missing the people that skin are literally falling off all over your floor.
Yeah. So we go up. We give our information. Yada yada yada. And it's the normal emergency room thing. They call me and Max back at the exact same time. They're like, Max. And they're like, Jared. So we go back and they're like, okay, get him into room. I think it was like 12. And then they look at me and they go, get him into triage. And I go, wait, isn't that like worse than just like a room? Like, isn't that where like things need to be done
Like,
immediately?
ain't you just going to take me and ask questions and stuff?
Yeah, I was like, can you put me in room 13, like the one right next to 12? Like,
and then they're like, get the saran wrap. And you're like, oh shit, they're going to steam me.
Yeah. So they go, I get put into like, I'm like 3 rooms down from him.
Why do I feel like that's accurate? Like, do they wrap you in plastic?
They
Keep
put
your skin on?
They put like a wrap and gauze on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was sort of
because
right.
they needed to keep the heat because my skin was just losing.
Don't know
heat.
why I imagined it was plastic.
It's like a plasticky material. They put that down first.
Okay, then I was all right.
Because they
cool.
put a cream down, then they put the plastic material over it, and then they put the gauze around everything. And it's to help because when you're burned, your skin is losing heat like incredibly fast. So that's what was happening on my arms. So I guess they do that to like lock it in. So they put me in triage, I guess, which was 3 rooms down from him, and my mom.
So you were in room 15.
Yeah, or no, because he was in 15. You're right. So
or 9.
no, it was up. Yeah, it was definitely 15. So my mom felt bad that his mom wasn't there. So
because his mom clearly didn't love him. She thought a cold shower was all he needed. She's like, boy, you too hot. You need to go cool off the cold shower. He's like, I know, because I was just on fire because I'm a fucking asshole when I lit myself on fire. I'm so mad at myself for hurting myself because I'm just imagining he's really vain, so that's the only person he's thinking about. And he's like, can't believe Jared's going to triage like a pussy. I'm just over here in room 12.
Yeah, so he's over there by himself. My mom and my brother's fiance are with me. my mom turns to Tiffany, my brother's fiance, and goes, "Hey, can you wait here with him? I'm gonna go make sure that Max is okay." So my mom
your
goes
mom went.
yeah, and hung out with
You're
him.
in the room where people die.
Yeah.
I'm going to go see how your friend that's behind a curtain over there sitting on a table just waiting for a doctor to come be like,
Yeah.
so where does it burn?
Yeah. So she goes over, make sure that he's okay. They start asking me questions. They're like, what happened? I explained to them, like you were just burning papers in a fire pit. Something exploded inside of the fire pit. A fireball shot out. I was completely engulfed in flame. I couldn't breathe. I don't know what's going on. My skin is starting to really, 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 really hurt. And they're like, on a scale.
Where is this?
They were like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it? And I was like, fucking 15. I'm like, this is terrible.
Just going with what room am I in? It's
Yeah.
that. As long as it's higher than 10.
Yeah, exactly. So they were like, okay, we're going to get you on some morphine. So they start putting me on. So they go, they get the morphine. They put me on morphine. They start looking at everything. They're
They're
diagnosing.
like, what are
the
you
extent.
now? And you're like, 14. They're like, give him more.
Yeah.
What are you now?
Like they were
12. Give him more.
like I was on a pretty steady drip, and honestly, the thing with like deep seated burns is
where did they put the needle?
they had to put it up here.
But it was burned.
Here was burned.
Okay.
I was burned here on this arm, and pretty much here on this arm.
I wonder if that's picking up in the camera because you're turning a weird color that you haven't done in a while.
By the time I color corrected, you probably won't even be able to tell. But
You're like 3 colors on that arm right now?
yeah. So yeah, my right arm is the one that got it the worst. I got burned from the knuckles on my fingers down to past my elbow, like halfway up my arm. And then on my left side, I was burned from like the bottom knuckle of my pinky down to my elbow on the back side. And then across my face from my nose, over my lips, and across to my ear, across to my right ear. That's where I was burned specifically. So they got me on the morphine drip, and then my mom comes back. Tiffany goes over to make sure that Max is okay. It was like a steady thing of like making sure that somebody was still with him to see that, so that he didn't feel like he was by himself. Now,
But he wanted to be by himself.
Yeah, but so at this time,
because he was mad at himself for blowing himself up.
exactly. But so at this time, he had insurance. I did not. I had no insurance because it's America. But yeah, so I didn't have insurance, and I tell them that because I had to, because they were like, "Do you have insurance?" And I had to be like, "No."
So they asked you to leave.
No, not really. They looked at everything, and they looked at my burns, and they said, okay, you have 1st-degree burns on 17% of your body, and you have 2nd-degree burns on 3% of your body. They're like, from what we discussed with the burn ward over at Cedar Crest, because they are the best in the area, they do not feel like it's going to drastically mutate, because that's the thing with burns. Burns mutate. As time goes on, they get worse. Sometimes they get only a little bit worse. They always get worse. But it'll either be like 5% worse, or in my case, somewhere around 300% worse. So Cedar Crest didn't feel like the odds that my
They
burns
didn't
would
feel
mutate.
that the burns that didn't see
Yeah.
would get worse.
Yeah. They took pictures and they showed them pictures, but they said that statistically, just based off of how they know burns mutate and how they act, that there's really almost no percentage chance that my burns are going to get to a point where it's going to be, 1, life-threatening, or 2, even inconveniencing or extremely painful.
But they were wrong.
They were very wrong. And then they told me to get these medicines, and they handed my mom a list, and then they said, "You're good." And then I left.
And then 45
with
minutes
nothing.
later,
Now Max, on the other hand, he left with sample sizes, multiple sample sizes of every medication that they told him that he would need. The ointments, the creams, the pain medications, things like that. Because he had insurance,
but he never got morphine.
that's true. He didn't need it, apparently. Oh, also, while I was on the morphine, that's when I started thinking, I could have died and I haven't spoken to my daughter, which that was a fun one. I had to call my ex up and go, "Hey, something happened. Can I talk to Emma?"
So as the story is being told,
Yeah.
I am realizing how jealous I am
Okay.
that I didn't get called until the day later.
You got called before a lot of people. I'm going to tell you that.
But I'm not even top 3.
You were top 5. Okay, you were top 5. I mean, technically...
Of the top 5 that wasn't your mom, how many of them showed up and saw you?
Everybody that knew. Yeah. You were there.
Listen.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. When it came to calling people, it was just my mom, and then it was Emma, and then it was you. You were the next person to find out.
I feel like I should have been sooner in that list.
I'm just saying, you know.
You'd have been like, I know you're at work right now and you're busy.
The only reason my brother and his fiance knew is because they lived here at the time, so they saw me when it was happening. So I call Emma up and I call my ex up and I'm just like, I need to talk to Emma. Something happened. And she was like, are you okay? And I was like,
not really.
And I was like, no, something happened. I need to speak to Emma right now, just in case. Because I legitimately
and
still
then her
in my
being
head.
Her went, you're being rude right now. And you're like, shut the fuck up.
No, she was facilitating it. She allowed me to speak to Emma at the time. So I spoke to Emma. I told her that something happened, that I got hurt, that I probably wouldn't be able to see her for a little bit. But once I could, I would let her know that I was okay. So.
And then you were like, and by the way, I have a cool story. I know something that not many people know. And that's what it's like to live inside fire.
That is true.
So you gotta stop. You phrased this all wrong. You're
Yeah.
all like, I was on fire. You've done something. How many people
Have
do you
lived
know
inside fire?
that have been completely inside of fire? Just fire. Not inside of a house fire. Not inside of something that was on fire.
True.
But was just in
fire.
fire. I don't know anybody but you. You're the only one. Everybody else, it was like Greece or a house. Because
Yeah.
I know lots of people that have been in houses that were on fire.
Yeah.
But that's a life choice because they do it on, like, they don't choose to burn their house down. They choose to go to other people's houses that are burning down. Because I just realized how weird that is. But like, man, I just like living in houses that are on fire.
Yes. Okay. So I go home. They tell me once again those numbers. It was first degree burns 17% of my body, second degree burns on like 3%. I get home. My mom goes at like now it's like 9:30 at night, and she's going just to different pharmacies trying to find these medications. She doesn't go.
Are they all over the counter medications?
No, I think some of them are over the counter, but some of them were like I needed a prescription and stuff like that.
It's just weird. Like usually one pharmacy can do it.
Yeah, no, it took her. By the time she got home, it was almost midnight.
Damn, and you're like, I need
had-
all of these things,
I had
and also call the doctors
Yeah,
again.
so I was off the morphine. I'm at home. I'm completely bandaged up. And I'm gonna throw up some pictures at this point. Like a warning, graphic. Like these are going to be graphic. These are the beginning ones. The beginning ones aren't that bad. Here they are.
This is your brain on fire.
This is what I looked like shortly after being on fire. They're not that bad. They don't look that bad.
45 minutes after being on fire.
Yes, and 45 minutes to like 2 hours after being on fire.
Do that TikTok thing. This is my voice. 45 minutes after being on fire.
This is my voice. Yes. No.
This is my voice. 5 hours after being on fire.
Okay. So time is going by.
This is my
and
voice 3 days after being on fire.
As time is going on, I'm slowly starting to realize I still feel like I'm on fire. Like the feeling of heat.
Ipso facto, your arms are still burning.
Yeah, of heat moving across my arms and the feeling of burning flesh, like if you touch something that's hot, that feeling wasn't going away. It was getting worse.
What did it smell like?
Didn't smell like nothing. It
Did
smelled
it
like
smell like
medication.
nothing?
It smelled like medication. It smelled
What did
like
it
gauze and
smell like
medication.
right after you burned it? Did it smell?
My skin
good?
didn't smell my skin. I did not smell my skin at any point.
I guess your nose hairs may have been burned.
They were definitely burned.
So maybe your smelling ability was bad.
Yeah.
You should ask other people that were nearby what it smelled like.
All right.
I have interests in this.
I will make sure to ask. No, I can't.
Neighbors of your friend.
Sure. So, as time is going on, I feel like I'm on fire. And I also feel like my bandages aren't fitting correctly.
So they're swelling.
Yeah. So now
Is there swelling
normal,
or are they getting loose?
it's normal to form blisters if you're burned. I feel like everybody knows that. The thing is that blisters form at like a pretty predictable rate.
It's usually pretty fast.
Yeah. But the predictable rate is like size compared to severity of burn. Like that's the rate that I'm talking about that they increase at. They form pretty quickly, but usually the size of the blister will be dependent on what degree of burn it was. So my blisters were forming and they were humongous to the point where it was pushing up the gauze and starting to poke out. And I can see them, and this was only a few hours after, and I'm going to throw up those pictures now. These ones are slightly more graphic. I always say that the one on my finger looks like a green grape.
Now, I have some knowledge of what that's like because the one time that I got sun poisoning, and I had a blister that was just my shoulders, the entire length.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gross and it hurts.
Yeah, they do. They hurt very much. There's a lot of pressure. It feels like your skin's gonna tear open once it reaches a certain point. So mine had gotten to around the point where they were probably predicting they would be.
Did you pop them?
Days? No, you're not supposed to. Days from then, they were predicting the blisters to get that bad after like 2 days or so, and they got that bad in like 2 hours. So I finally get the medication, I put it on, and I'm like, all right, I need to sleep. Issue is, I was just involved in a very traumatic experience. My brain was moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. My brain was too active to sleep. Then my arms felt like my skin was on fire, and also like there was baseballs forming underneath these damn pieces of gauze. Like it was getting to the point where I'm looking down and I can see just the gauze splitting in places because it couldn't hold it back any longer. And I'm pacing around my house, all the floors. Like I'm just going through my entire house. I got 8 minutes of sleep that night where I had both of my arms propped up on pillows, just trying to keep them up and try to keep it going. And I passed out, and then immediately the pain woke me back up after that, like maybe 8 minutes that I was out. So then I was just pacing through the house for the rest of the day. Then my mom wakes up for work, asks me how I am, and she can tell that I'm starting to, at this point, from the pain, because still, now it's hours later. Now it's 5 o'clock in the morning. This happened at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon the day before.
So a little over 12 hours.
Yeah. I still feel like I'm on fire. Like my arms still have the distinct feeling of flame touching skin. So I can't formulate sentences because I'm talking like a crazy person. Like I'm like, I could feel it in my skin. Like I start saying weird things like that. And my mom's like, I'm not going to work. You need to go back to the hospital. But the thing is,
but they gave me medicine.
Yeah, and they told me to call back on Wednesday. This happened on a Sunday. So they told me to call the hospital on Wednesday and let them know. So my mom's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to call the hospital. They call. She explains it. They're like, we don't have any space. And they looked at the burns, and they're not that bad. And my mom went, I don't care what they said. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm telling you that it is. And they went, just tell him to see if he can stick it out till Wednesday. So then I'm like, it's fine. It'll be fine. Just go to work. I'll figure it out. And my mom goes, no, get in the car. And I'm like, the doctor said I need to wait until Wednesday. And she's like, I don't care what the doctor said. When you walk in there, they'll know that this is bad. So she had me keep calling. And then I called and I'm like, look, my mom's bringing me in. I'm either going to go to the emergency room or I'm going to go to you guys. And they're like, all right, we have an opening. They're like, we might have an opening. We can see if we can pencil you in. And
AKA, they had openings. You didn't have insurance, and they got pictures, and they were like, that's okay.
Yeah. So So at this point, we go. I'll just make sure. Yeah, everything's still good. So
You
we
heard
go.
that click?
Yeah, I heard that click. So we go, and I'm in the hospital then, and I show up. They ask me all the questions. The woman, she's a secretary. She doesn't know anything about burns and stuff like that. So she's like, I'm not gonna make a diagnosis and see how bad you are. So she tells me to wait in the waiting room, and we get there at around 6:30 in the morning. I don't get seen, like I don't get my name called until around 11:30.
And this is what's wrong with America's healthcare system.
Yeah. So that happens. There's a little kid there that
So they were trying to wait until Wednesday after you arrived. They're
they were
let's see
if he'll wait in the waiting room till Wednesday. So they were doing all that. There was even a kid with his family, and they were like, those look really bad. And they had come from Pittsburgh because this was one of the best burn wards in the state, like in the Northeast, really.
And how long were they waiting?
They weren't waiting very long at all, but they were saying they even told the lady, they were like, hey, excuse me, he looks really bad. They're like, I think he should get someone. They were like, oh no, a doctor will see him. And she's like, I really don't know. She's like, my son was really bad when he started coming here. That looks pretty bad. It looks very similar. So the person was like, okay, we'll talk to the doctor. So at around 11 something, I get called back. They take the bandages off, and then I was told not to look because it's very disturbing, and I will give everybody 5 seconds.
Are there pictures of this?
Yes. I will give everybody 5 seconds right now to fast forward like 10 seconds before I show these pictures. Like, so hit fast forward like 2 times. Like, just go forward like 10, 20 seconds. Okay, here they are. So my arms looked
I'm
like...
confused. Because the way you set that up, it sounds like you're saying fast forward to see the pictures.
Stop. So these are the pictures. My arms looked like burnt steak. They were gray. They had these bumps and bubbles all over them. And then these just gigantic blisters,
I know you were in pain,
filled with liquid.
But did you at least one time go, I'm a zombie?
No.
I would have.
No, totally didn't do that. The amount of pain that I was in, the picture should be gone by now. You should be good. Welcome back. So the amount of pain that I was in was fucking excruciating. It was the worst pain that I have ever been in because it once again felt like my skin was trying to burst.
I'm a zombie. You were just going,
Yeah. Plus, also, I hadn't slept. So, like, I hadn't
really
slept.
We're going,
Yeah. I was walking around my house just being like,
and then the doctor looks at it and you go, the fire's inside me.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
No, I'll get to all this. So they look at it and they're like, wow, okay, that's really bad. They're like, we need to pop those. And I go, they told me not to pop them, though. And they were like, we're the doctors. We're telling you they need to pop.
Other doctors said not to do that.
Those are too big. They're like, the amount of pain that you have to be in is excruciating. They're like, that's the limit of what your skin can take. It's going to burst if we don't pop it. And I was like,
let me see what happens.
The other doctor told me that it won't heal right. And they were like, we'll handle it. We're doctors. That's what they told me.
And then they said, this is going to hurt a lot.
No, because at that point, when your skin's stretched that much because of the blisters, they have no nerve endings in them.
Oh, I meant the part when they start scrubbing the underneath part.
They didn't do that. So they took a scalpel and they sliced open all of the gigantic blisters that were there, which it felt amazing at first because it was a release of pressure followed by a cool splash of liquid. That liquid, not good stuff, but it felt amazing at the time. So my mom sees this. She's not doing well.
But they said not to, and then they did. You're like,
yeah. So she's not. She's hanging in there, but she's in her mind. She said she was like, it was a lot, and it was hard to keep my composure because I was trying to not have you freak out. And I was like, well, thank you for that. So they do that to both arms. And then the woman who looked at the pictures the night before was still there. And she came in and explained to me how sorry she was because there was a very, 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 very slim percentage. I think it was like 1 in every 10,000 burns would have mutated the way that mine did. So she was erring on the side of caution, but if she would have known, they would have definitely sent for an ambulance for me immediately because that's how bad my burns had developed. And then I said, how bad are they? And I was like, they told me they're 1st-degree burns. And she was like, those are a minimum of second degree burns over around 20% of your body now.
What I wished actually happened
Mm-hmm.
was that she came in and was like, listen, we told you, and then vomited on the floor upon seeing it.
Yeah, she was.
Just imagine how much better that would have been.
That would have been
She
great for
came
the
in to be
story,
like,
but
listen, we told you that it wasn't that. Oh my God.
yeah. So she apologized and everything like that. I'm like, all right, cool. So they rewrap my stuff up. Well, no, before they rewrap my stuff up, the doctor comes in then. Like whoever was the head of like the floor at that time, he walks in, and I shit you not. Okay, if this was the doorway to coming into my room, I'm here. He goes like this. He goes, hey, how you doing? I'm the doctor. Get him a room. And turns around and walks out. And I go, excuse me?
He's like, I don't need to see you. I've seen enough.
And I was like, do you not want to see? And he was like, no, you should be in a room already. They're like, we're gonna handle it.
Where
You'll
are
be
you
fine.
for this part?
I'm sitting in a chair. Like I'm in just like a
talk to the doctor room.
yeah, like I talk to the doctor room. That's where I am. I'm sitting in a chair.
I feel stupid.
Yeah, I feel stupid too. I was in it.
Exam room.
Exam room. There we go. I was in an exam room.
Doctor.
Yeah, so I was in a talk to the doctor room, also known as an
So
exam room.
many more words than exam room.
Yeah, but we couldn't remember what an exam was. So that's a test. Oh, it's a test. They were testing me. Okay. But yeah, so I was like, you don't want to see anymore? And he was like, no, I've seen enough. We're going to help you. They're like, trust me, we're going to get this taken care of. They're like, we apologize. We're going to get you in a room right away.
And you're like, so you're going to get me better medicine. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Well, they definitely got me better medicine because I was hooked up to a constant drip of morphine, which was nice, even though it didn't really help all that much.
But you were high enough
as I stated,
that the burns were like, this is really crappy.
it was
and it hurts a lot.
mildly, yeah.
But I kind of don't care.
Yeah, it was mildly infuriating. So I got the room. I'm in the bed. That's when they tell me, they're like, hey, we're going to be prepping you for surgery. But before we do that, we're going to get you some insurance real quick. So that's when I got medical assistance.
They gave you
right there.
They were like,
yeah,
you need to call the government right
Yeah.
now. We're going to fill some paperwork.
yeah. No,
I'm like, I can't
they
move
had a
my hands
person.
good, but okay.
They had a person come in and they were like, the worst thing that's going to happen is I need you to sign this paper. And I was like, I can't move my hand. I'm like, I'm a righty and my hand's burned from my knuckles down. And she was like, I know,
Scribble.
but I need for you to do this. So I held the pen and I was like, and I signed it. And then
Or
I
did you just like, can't my mom
and then
do
I had
it?
insurance. Well, no, it's because I was old enough that she couldn't do it. So then I had insurance. So it was great. So I'm on this drip. I'm in the gown and everything like that. And that was around the time where I called you because I was like, hey, just so you know, I was in an explosion. And you're like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm in the hospital. You're like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be here for I don't know how long. They want to put me in surgery. That was the extent of the information I gave Kyle because that was the extent of the information I knew at the time.
Then you were all, come to the burn ward. And I was like, all right, after work. And then
Yeah.
I was all like, hospital scare me.
Yeah. So so they.
That is the only time I've ever been to the hospital for a non-family member, I think.
Damn, I feel this makes me feel nice. So so they prepped me for surgery, and basically what the surgery is I had what's known as indeterminate level of burns. Everybody knows that there's first degree, second degree, third degree. But what they don't know is that there is a level in between second and third where they go, that's too close to call. You are right at that line where this goes from really bad to
Amputation.
to basically you're going to be losing some skin from your ass to cover whatever parts you got left.
What is it called when you burn your bones?
I don't know.
That's got to be more than third degree.
That's fourth degree. I have no idea.
17th degree.
Cremation, I think. But so I had second degree burns over a large portion of my body and indeterminate level of burns over another degree. I think it was on mostly my right arm and my face. They didn't know what it was because of how my lips were dying basically, and the hole on my face kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So they were like, "We need to get that skin off of you."
And it didn't hit your eyes
I know
because you had your eyes open in the fire.
Yep, totally did. It's insane. Also, it didn't burn my clothes. It didn't burn my legs. It took all the hair. It took most of the hair off.
The
my
fire
right
was like,
leg.
I just want some of this. I just want a little bit of wings,
A little bit of wing, a little bit of face. Yeah. So they prep me for surgery. They do the surgery. They basically skinned me. They took off all the layers of skin that showed damage of, basically signs of burns. The issue was that was all of my layers of skin except for the last one, which is the basically the line where it goes from 2nd-degree burns to 3rd-degree burns. Because 3rd-degree burns is where it burns past your skin into all the other important stuff. And
So,
mine
when they
was
were
at the
done-
last level.
They're like, so you see that level, that skin there, and you're like, yeah, and they're like, don't scratch it because that's muscle.
I was gauzed up, and they said don't move too much. They're like, because every time you move, you're gonna rip your skin. Yeah, I would cut the one layer of skin that I had left just by closing doing that and closing my fists would rip the skin.
If you didn't have the gauze on, would you be able to see muscle then?
It was just pink.
Since that's all that's left.
It was a thin layer of pink, and then you would see. I guess I would have seen like a little bit of what was underneath, but it was mostly your skin still has some color to it down there, and it's just pink. It's a very, very, very.
So you knew what it was like to be me for a day.
I guess even further, I was more pink than you actually. So they did that. I was in the hospital for it's the thing with the burn ward is it's fucking terrifying because
I know, I was
there's
but not there. I was there.
Night in the burn ward is something else because there's people will come in the middle of the night because they were burned, and some people were burned worse than me, or where they were in excruciating pain and screaming. So I'm in excruciating pain. I have a constant trip of morphine, and I hear people screaming in the hallways. Which funny thing,
torturing
you're
them.
not supposed to scream in the burn ward because it freaks the other patients out. So no matter how much it hurts, they actually advise you to try not to scream. It's very hard to do.
But you were in a ward full of children that were burned too.
Yeah, there's children that
So
were
they're
burned.
like,
There's older people.
Tell me not to scream. Go for it. I'm gonna do it.
So I was in there for 4 days altogether.
All I remember is that was the hardest floor of a hospital that I had to be able to get into.
Yeah.
Because there was more security for that, and
and there's a reason for that.
I think there was some kind of weird clean sanitation thingy that I had to go through.
Yeah, you had to wear a gown, you had to wear booties, you couldn't wear anything that was outside and stuff like that. So the reason for that is because burn victims were very susceptible to germs when our skin's off of us, and when we have open lacerations and stuff like that. Which is why for the entire time that I was in there, no child could come see me. Children are just not allowed in the burn ward. One because they're disgusting, and two because most kids can't handle what a burned person looks like, and they freak out because you look like.
I think this was different when we were kids because I vaguely remember doing a school caroling trip to
that's terrible
a burn ward or something.
We're going to skip past because this is going longer than I thought even though we did have a lot of build up to this. But so I'm in there. While I'm in there, the only people to visit me were my mom and my aunt who were there the entire time. So they came in. My other aunt couldn't visit me because she had no one to watch my cousin's daughter. So she couldn't, you can't just you have to leave your kid then in just a room that's outside of the burn ward if you bring a kid with you.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. And then my brother, his fiance, my dad, my stepmom, my sister, and then you and one of my brother's friends. That was it. A few more people did find out that I was in there, but I tried not to freak out my family. So I tried not to tell certain people. And I told other people not to tell certain people because I didn't want my grandparents freaking out because, I didn't want them just losing it. And
don't tell grandma I was on fire. I don't think she'll like that.
Yeah. But I did tell Max that I was in there. And his words were, and I called him the next day when, right after my surgery, because I wanted to make sure that he was doing good. I wanted to make sure that he was okay. Which he was doing okay. He said that it basically felt like he had extremely bad sunburn from his shoulder down to his fingers. Because he was burned just on that one side. Because he had a shoot, because he was on the show Gotham at that time. He was an extra. And he had to deal with that feeling while shooting. So we were talking about that, and he basically told me that I was an idiot for going to the hospital. because they're going to charge me for all this extra stuff.
Yeah, you should have just died.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, no. I'm like, it was getting really bad. And he was like, whatever, man. He's like, I'll talk to you about it later. So
you're like, I had to have surgery. And he's like, nah, I'm busy.
Yeah. So
I didn't say that.
yeah, I know. You're good about it. So time goes on. I get out. And this is where we're going to go into the what happened after the burns. So it was the middle of summer. I couldn't be around heat. I couldn't be around sun. I couldn't be around any of that.
Yeah, I remember your doofy little sleeve things that I made fun of you for.
Yeah, because they were compression sleeves that had to be UV
and
to block the sun.
So
and stuff.
weird in like the middle of July, and you're like,
I had to wear
board shorts and long sleeves.
Yep, I had to wear long
and
sleeves and gloves, all that stuff. I had to wear big ass hats to block the sun from my face. So I couldn't.
Still think one of my favorite pictures of that of you in Florida.
Yep.
I'm just like, you went swimming in that?
Yeah, I did. So I wasn't allowed to go outside at first, like because I had to wait. I had a trip coming up to Florida to take my daughter to Disney, and I wasn't gonna miss that. But at the same time, I needed to get medically cleared to even leave. So I was just focusing on healing, and they were like, "Well, then don't go outside at all. Don't go outside. Don't leave your house. Just take your medicine, put the stuff on." My aunt was helping me out. She was helping me put all the ointments on, wrapping everything up. I was taking a shower, which is super painful when you have burns because it feels like skin going in, or it feels like water going
Getting
into an
stabbed.
open cut. Yeah. So
Well, no, you had open sores. I mean,
yeah.
just regular, like, surface layer burns in the shower.
Yeah.
I feel like you're getting stabbed by little ice crystals.
Yeah, it was basically like that. And I wasn't allowed to leave the hospital, actually, until I was able to take a shower. So,
So you took that shower and
I
you
took-
screamed, but you're like,
I took a shower,
I did
but
it.
what I did was, since I couldn't scream, I laughed.
That's worse.
And I just laughed. And when I got out, the nurses were like, I've never heard someone do that. That was kind of
worse.
They were like, that was really, really creepy. It was really, really disconcerting.
You're like,
And I was like, yeah, I'm good though. I can go home, right? And they were like, we'll get the papers drafted. They were like, but just so you know, try not to do that around anybody else. It was really weird. So I had to do that every day, though. I had to clean
every
it all.
day.
I had to clean it all
when
out.
you got home, you could scream though.
Yeah, but I still tried not to. And same thing with because they gave me oxycodone as
You must have horrified your neighbors then.
as my medicine.
They're just like, every night at 8:00, we just hear.
No, I'd take a shower. Well, I'd take a shower
for
in
an
the
hour
in the
and a half
morning.
long, because I know you take retarded showers.
No, I was not taking long showers at that time. I was getting in, I was cleaning everything that I had to, and it was just I was letting the water hit it for a while and then getting out. Because it was very painful. So I was doing everything that I could, and while I was doing that, there was a couple things that I couldn't do. One, couldn't see Emma, which led to some of probably the worst psychological damage. Because when you can't see your kid, it sucks. Like to talk to them on the phone and not be able to see them, it sucks. And
I
then,
get mad just because mine has not been home for half the summer because she's sleeping at her friends.
Exactly. So it's like, so she was with her mother. Her mother knew the whole story then at that point. And then finally, after 4 days home, she brought her over to see me. And this was probably as bad as being on fire. It was the moment that Emma walked up the stairs. I was completely wrapped up. And I had my skin was still falling off my lips at the time. I still had crusted shit all over my face from where my skin was starting to grow back. And she hid behind her mother because she was terrified of how I looked. And that was mentally, that was just as bad as being on fire, was having your kid basically be afraid of you.
I've heard of these stories, but these
Yeah.
were people that were like, that was permanent.
Yeah. And then they were also then finally when she started getting used to me again and stuff like that, she was afraid to touch me. She was afraid to hug me. She was afraid to do anything. Because as soon as she went to give me a hug, she was like, wait, I'm going to break daddy's skin. I can't hurt him. And that sucked. So that led to a lot, that was probably the worst psychological point of it. That wasn't the trauma. And the PTSD that came from this was something that I never thought that I'd ever have to like as someone who didn't serve in the military. I never thought that I'd have to worry about PTSD. I was like, that's just something that military guys go through. But
super common thing.
Yeah, it is. But I never thought I'd ever have to deal with it. Probably the worst part about the post-traumatic stress was, one, the fear of flames. Like that,
coming to my house and watching me grill stuff and then throwing stuff on it.
Pyrophobia is not a fun one because when you have like gas cooking and stuff like that, even a small flame is still, it makes you uncomfortable.
Better, though.
I'm getting better at it. But pyrophobia is not a fun one, especially when you have gas stove like I do. So cooking was completely out of the question. And I'm going to tell this story, and I've never told anybody about this dream. I'm going to tell it here first. This is a PTSD dream. I had a recurring dream for 3 months after this happened. It wasn't every day, but at first it was every day. Like in the hospital I'd say probably like 2 weeks after I got out, I was having this dream every day. And I was playing a video game, and it was like Minecraft. And I was just building stuff, and then somebody else was playing, and they built like this really stupid like house, and it was made of like dirt and grass. And they were like, "Oh, go in and check it out." And I went in, and when I went in, it went from playing a video game perspective to I was in it. And it was just a dark room. And I was like, "This is really stupid. I don't want to be in here anymore." And then I go to the door, and the door doesn't open. And then one of the tiles of the roof catches on fire.
Well, that makes sense because Minecraft, your house is burned down often.
Yeah. So, and then it spread like a Minecraft fire, but it looked like regular fire. And I just kept hearing the sound of the explosion over and over again playing. And the fire would slowly reach, and it would completely go everywhere around me but where I was standing. And so I'd be right in front of the door, and
so it's you being trapped in the fire.
Yeah. So, and everywhere that I wasn't was on fire, including the door. And then from the other side of the door, I was screaming for the person to let me out. I was like, "This isn't fun anymore. Let me out." And the person then on the other side, when the dream started, it was Max. And he said, "You deserve this." And then everything would collapse on top of me, and then I would shoot awake. And then that would happen every time I went to sleep.
Okay, yeah, and you never told me this one either.
Yeah. So that would happen every time I would go to sleep. One of the main reasons why that happened is because after I got out of the hospital, I contacted Max, and I said, "Hey, because of all the bills and everything that happened, and because of just the doctors basically told me that it was 50-50, that if I would have been inhaling instead of exhaling, I would have died." Because they basically said that if I wouldn't have been talking, if I would have just been breathing, I would have inhaled the heat, and it would have burned my lungs, and I would have just died right there on the lawn. Exactly what I thought was happening. So I told him all of this, and I said, "Hey, is there any way that you, me, my mom, your mom, can get together and just talk about maybe filing a claim to homeowners insurance?" That apparently...
And I remember you're making it sound like this happened. You didn't do this for a long time.
No, this was actually the day after I got out.
Oh, was it? Oh, because I thought I argued with you because you're like, "No, I'm not going to do that."
That's when the initial thing happened. So I talked to him the day after I got out because my mom had texted him and asked for his mom's number. And then he called me and he asked if I was okay, and it was like a whole setup thing. And I had been with him like when he did certain like similar things to other people, where he like starts a conversation like normal, and then he goes, "Hey, so what the fuck?"
Okay.
And then starts like going after somebody. So I kind of like was aware of what was about to happen. So then he starts asking me like, "Why are you trying to talk to my mom? Why do you want to file this to insurance? Why are you trying to sue me?" He's like, "It wasn't even that bad." He's like, "I didn't."
He's never seen you.
Yeah.
He didn't see you while you were injured.
Yeah.
He ignored the fact that you went, "I just had my skin removed by a doctor."
Yeah. So he was saying that it wasn't that bad, that he was badly burned also, and he didn't do that. So, I was just being a bitch about it. He was like, if why don't you look into getting insurance to cover it? He's like, why do you have to go after me and my family?
You were looking for insurance to cover it.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, I'm like, this isn't a lawsuit thing. I'm literally just saying, can we sit down and have a conversation?
And that's literally what homeowners insurance is for.
Yeah.
That's the point.
So
it's one of the points.
It's one of the points. Yeah, exactly. It's if somebody in an accident, and I was like, look, I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not saying, I'm like, this
happened on your property.
I'm like, this was a freak accident.
People get sued over homeowners insurance because someone trips on the sidewalk in front of their house.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the person. It's literally just, that's what homeowners insurance is.
Yeah. I'm like, and it's just like, if I would have been with him and he got into a crash in his car.
And he was like, oh, my insurance is not covering you.
Yeah. So that caused a bit of an issue, but he did say, he was like, all right, I'll talk to you about it later. And he hung up. And that was the last time that I had spoken with him, the day after I got out of the hospital. That is now 3.5 years later. Have not spoken to him a single time since. So that's why I think in the dream, it was him saying, you deserve this. Mm-hmm. Then as time goes on, my PTSD starts to, slightly diminish. I start healing. I heal miraculously to the point where they allow me to go to Florida. I have a bit of an episode at Rainforest Cafe when the volcano went off and I went completely white and I hyperventilated and I felt like I was on fire again and I had to run away. Left my entire family, like literally just ran away from my family in the middle of Disney Springs.
You did survive that bonfire that I tricked you into going to.
Yes,
though.
I did do that.
You stayed far, but you came close.
Yeah.
At one point, you were like 30 feet away.
Yeah, it was good, like 30, 35 feet away. Yeah. But so I was getting better. And then that's when I was like, maybe I should start going out again. Like maybe just to be around people, because I had not seen people in just the longest time. So I was like, let me just start going out again. Let me start talking to people again. And I started calling people and people ignored my call. And then I started texting people and people ignored my texts. And then I started going out to the bars that we used to go to and I would see people and they would go, oh, hi, and then leave. And then once again, as I stated earlier, 80% of the people that I knew because of Max. He was the extrovert that introduced me to everybody that he knew. Now, I was bedridden for 4 days in the hospital, and then I was basically sequestered to my house for weeks to try to be able to go to Florida, and then I was in Florida, and then I came back. So you're looking at, there's been now like a month and a half has gone by. I haven't even been outside in Bethlehem until that point. And in that time, Max had gone out, talked to people, and when they said, hey, what's up with your arm? Because he had his all gauzed up also. He was like, oh, yeah, no, there was an explosion. My fire pit blew up. I got burned. And then they were like, oh, shit, really? And he was like, yeah, Jared got burned too. He's being a bitch about it, though. And he's trying to sue me. He was like,
he doesn't understand basic things, I think. He's just dumb.
Once again, this is what was relayed to me by another person. I'm not saying that this is 100% what he said. This is just what someone told me that he said.
And one of those people had a conversation with both of us about it one time, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's basically what he said. Like, this is, like, I'm basically paraphrasing right now what somebody else told me he told them.
Okay.
He said that we were both involved in it. We weren't burned that bad. I listened to the doctors, went to the hospital because I couldn't handle the pain.
So you listened to the doctors.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's wrong. So everybody that you know is retarded and anti-doctor, apparently.
Yeah.
Because they were all like, who goes to the doctors for being on fire?
Well, his logic was, when I saw the bill for the hospital, which once again, I didn't even see the bill for the hospital, which was a fun bill to get, which is close to $40,000. But so when I saw the bill for the hospital, that wasn't until like 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that apparently when I saw the bill for the hospital, that's when I decided that I was going to go after him and sue his family to cover.
But you
my
weren't
expenses.
suing him.
I wasn't suing anybody.
You were just being like,
Can we discuss
can we talk to your homeowner's insurance?
and file a claim?
That's not a lawsuit.
Yeah, not at all. It's a
That's-
very simple thing.
When you get into a car accident and you're like, let's exchange
Insurance
lawsuits.
information.
Oh, sorry, information.
Yeah,
It's not like you're like, we're going to sue each other now
yeah,
because we had a fender bender.
yeah,
And I just saw the bill for my garage.
exactly. Yeah. So,
Tell your insurance I'm coming hard.
yeah, but so that's what ended up happening. So he, since he was out and about for a month and a half without me being able to tell my side of the story, ended up telling every single person that I knew how, one, much of a bitch I was, how, two, how greedy I was, and three,
How not burned you were.
yeah, how much of a liar I am because of how not badly burned I was.
You should just post the pics all over Facebook.
Nah.
Let all of them see. I remember that time I was not burned that bad. This is what looked like before my skin got cut off.
That's kind of what this video is. This video is my side of the story. If anybody wants to see it, they can see it. But
We should challenge him to come here,
that is
and then we'll fight him. Or, interview him.
no.
Hear his side of the story.
No, but that shortly after that happened, after I found out that I had basically lost all of my friends except for you.
I'm the only important one. I was the only important one at that time.
Yeah. So at that point, then that is shortly after that is when my 30th birthday came up. And I remember sitting at a bar by myself on my 30th birthday, still with the compression gloves on, still, having to, cover my arms because it was basically infant skin and the temperature had started to change. So now my skin was starting to turn white and blue and starting to chap. So I remember doing all of that and just sitting alone on my 30th birthday at a bar that I used to frequent, that I knew every single person in. And the only person that spoke to me was my one friend, Jack, who is no longer with us, but he was the only person that spoke to me on my birthday. I mean, you spoke to me on like text and phone call and stuff like that, but he was the only person that was there in person on my 30th birthday. Who, before this accident, me and who I thought were my friends, had a gigantic plan for what everybody was going to do for my birthday. And I was sitting alone with one person at that time.
Everybody's thinking I'm a bad person.
But he
I don't
has a
go to
family.
bars.
He doesn't go to bars, and he has a lot of children.
I am more antisocial than you.
Yeah.
So the idea of going to a bar would have been terrible.
Yeah.
And your birthday is when we carve pumpkins.
Yes, that is
By accident. And also, I'm like 90% sure because for like the last however many of your birthdays, you're like, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And then I get a call and you're like, I'm at a bar. And I'm like,
Come meet
I don't
me
know
here.
what to do with this information.
Yeah.
No, you don't even do that. You're just like, I'm at a bar drinking by myself.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, that's a weird decision. I'm going to ignore this weird guilt trip that you're throwing out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't blame you for not being there. I know you have other things.
No, but I mean, like, just you're like, you're the only friend I had, and I was alone on my birthday. Like, that's just what's being said to the internet right now.
Yeah.
Just needed
I
let
don't
the world
blame
know.
him for not being there. No, it's but it was being blown up is, and because that's what it is. I mean, for a while we just kept saying I was on fire. Like the things that I allowed on the show was that I was on fire.
One time you were on fire.
Yeah. But that's not what it was. I was legitimately in an explosion.
I think that you should have been able to sue for more. Like, it ruined your ability to go to hibachi restaurants.
That was a fun
Especially
experience.
Because when you're like, hey, we want to sit in the hibachi because he's never had hibachi. And they're like, okay, can we not do the fire trick? Yes. Cool. Go to another person. Hey, we were gonna sit in the dining area. Can we do hibachi? And can you tell the chef not to do the fire trick? You're just standing there like, they're gonna do the fire trick. I'm like, no. 3 people have told me, and I'm gonna ask again. 3 people so far have told me no fire trick. Get to the table. Hey, chef, sir. Don't know if they told you. My friend don't like fire. Can we not do the fire trick? Yeah, cool. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Come back. Whoosh.
Yep. That was not fun.
And they did the fire trick for the other family at the same table. After going, you're the one who doesn't like fire, right? I'm going to do it for them, though.
The fire's not going to jump and get you. Well, just so you know, it does that sometimes.
I just come over and you're like...
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, it's...
At least you didn't run, because there was 2 children there.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I knew I couldn't run. But... I mean, and to sum everything up, I mean, it's the reason why I'm telling this is because 1, it's a crazy story.
2, because I'm going to constantly bring it up and reference it.
It's an insane story that I was completely engulfed in flames and blown up. And that the person who I was with I'm not going to say did it, but indirectly and accidentally caused the explosion.
You were shaking the fuck out of everything you're touching right now.
Was, one of my best friends at the time, who then told every other person that I know how much of a greedy, money-grubbing, bitch-ass person I was. And, while suffering PTSD, I got to sit in my room alone to think about all the times I was on fire.
People do TED Talks about this.
Yeah.
When our Patreon gets happening and we become popular, please help us.
Yeah.
You're going to do You're going to do TED Talks about
do a TED Talk.
Surviving and thriving after exploding and PTSD and...
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I can make like a moral for this story, 1, don't play with fire. Just respect fire because it's very dangerous. But 2, and this is probably the most important part of it, be careful who you think you're friends with. Don't invest so much effort into trying to impress and trying to be something and care about other people, because when things are at their worst... No,
you literally just told people not to care about people.
No, I said be careful who you do it to.
Okay.
Not everybody that says they're your friend is your friend. Like, a lot of the people that I considered friends, I was like, they were people that, and you know how I am. For my friends, I'll go above and beyond. I'll do ridiculous stuff. You get into a fight, I'll just fucking jump into it. It's, I'll help you out. I'm loyal to my friends, and I will protect my friends if need be. And they proved that they would not even do the minimum of saying, hey, what's your side?
And then you have to also think about the moral of, hey, the guy who blew you off told you to go fuck yourself. No. Separate story.
Oh, okay.
Guy who blew you off told you to go fuck yourself. Ignored you for several weeks. Would end up being the best friend you ever had. And you have to remember from then on that no one will love you as much as I do.
Well, then I think that's where we can end this one. If
someone's a dick to you, they may be better than the friends that you thought were nice to you.
Yeah. So once again, just be careful who you invest your time and energy into, because they might not always reflect it. And also be open to people that might be a bit of an asshole to you because they might just be honest and they might just stick around through really bad stuff.
Yeah, and they'll come to the hospital when you get blown up.
Yeah, hopefully you don't get blown up. Don't play with fire.
You counted as a better friend than them for a long time.
Don't play with fire, anybody.
I was jealous.
But
took an explosion.
If you have been through anything similar, I'm not saying if you've been on fire, but if you've had an incident or an accident that has significantly changed your outlook on life or significantly affected how you live your life,
or if you've had
you
like
suffer
friendships that have like
ended,
in some crazy way,
or
some kind of crazy life lesson,
or if you suffer also from PTSD, let us know in the comments. Like, reach out. Like, I would love to have conversations with people that are going through things that are similar or in the same wheelhouse to things that I've gone through.
If you have PTSD, let us know if he's ever going to be able to go camping.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know that.
We had plans
please.
before this happened.
We had tons of plans, and a lot of them involve campfires. So let me know if I'm ever going to be able to camp again. But let us know. Email us at rumrunnas@gmail.com.
Unless your story is particularly scary, then you can email us at
darkrumstories@gmail.com if it's a super scary story that led to PTSD. But so in the comments or on Instagram at Rum Runnas or on Facebook at Rum Runnas or on our email, rumrunnas@gmail. Let us know.
If you do want
any
us
of those
to share
things.
a story, your story, and you don't want us to say your name, just put that in there.
Yeah, let us know though if you would rather us not discuss it on air. You can also reach us here at RumPod on Twitter if you want to talk to Kyle about what it's like to be the friend of someone that had this happen, or how can you start a conversation like an asshole but end being the best friend. Hit him up on Instagram at Mr. Normal.
If you're a terrible friend who's only person that loves your friend the way that you love them, and they need to be reminded regularly that no one will ever love them the same way, let me know.
At Mr. Normal.
Man, if I drop all the times I hit you...
Yeah.
This is a weird relationship.
This is a very weird relationship.
Some of them were in a room where we were supposed to.
If you're listening to us, make sure that you do check out our videos. That is youtube.com/Rum Runnas Entertainment. We have video versions of all of these podcasts as well as many more things.
Not really many more things. We had plans for many more things.
We have plans for them.
So support us by liking and sharing stuff so we can get more sponsors.
Now, once again, the day after this on Fridays, every Friday at noon, we release the Dark Rum podcast, which is Kyle and Turtle. They're doing spooky stories, so make sure to support them. You can find both Rum Runners podcast and Dark Rum on all of the podcast audio platforms like
iTunes.
I think it's called Apple now.
Apple. Everybody still calls it iTunes. Okay. Google Play, Castbox, Stitcher, Breaker, Spotify, and all the other ones that
Anchor
are important.
FM. And
Anchor FM. Anchor. Brought to you by Anchor FM.
This show actually is brought to you by Anchor FM.
If we do it more than one time, do we get paid more than one time?
Just the one.
Brought to you by Anchor FM.
All right. So thank you.
Sponsored by Fireball Whiskey.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining with us for this very different episode. We appreciate having you here. Peace. Deuces. We'll catch you in the next one.
Just remember, no one will love you like me.